Hello everyone, today I'm here to bring you my spring read. So I thought I would make a video this spring recommending you some books to read during this spring season. I for one love spring. Spring and fall are probably my favorite season. Spring is not even a season where I live. Honestly, like it's either really hot or really cold. We have a few days in between where it really feels like spring, but regardless, I still love spring and flowers and grass and just everything coming to life again. It's so refreshing and so beautiful. I love spring colors and I love reading in the spring. So just a few disclaimers before we begin on with this video. Number one, all the books I'm going to talk about in this video are going to be contemporary, and because I read the majority of contemporary books in the spring and summer, something about spring and summer makes me fall in love with contemporary even more. I feel like that is the perfect time to read contemporary books, if I'm honest with you. The most contemporaries in spring and summer, I feel like it's just the perfect time to read contemporaries because contemporaries are kind of light, fluffier books with, you know, not a lot of depth to them. Now some contemporaries have a lot of depth, which is great to them, but for the majority of the part, when you read contemporary, it's just because you want all the heart feelings and all the love feelings and just something light to get you through. So I feel like spring and summer are the perfect time to read contemporary. So that is why all of these books are going to be contemporary, all contemporary in this video. Number two, since it is spring, I'm going to do a summer reads video as well. These books all take place like during the school year. So none of these books, I'm pretty sure, hopefully I am right. Now I'm reserving all the books that take place in the summer for my summer reads video. So if you're wondering why I wouldn't mention a book, it's because it takes place during the summer and I got to use it for my summer reads video. So the majority of these books takes place during the school year. I have a couple adult books in here as well that don't take place in the summer as well. So like I said, all these books takes place like throughout the majority of the year, not specifically set at summer, but I do plan on doing a summer reads video. Let me have those quick two disclaimers out of the way. Let's go ahead and begin on with my spring reads. I have about 9 books here to show you, and a lot of these, forewarning again as well, I've talked about them a lot because I love them a lot and I really recommend them. So I want to share them again. I try to do these like newer releases, like new contemporary books that I've read. There are a couple that are kind of old favorites that I always recommend because I just love them so much. So yeah, enough jibber jabber. Let's get into the books I recommend to read during the spring season. The first book I want to talk about is The Sun is Also a Star by Nicola Yoon. I've talked about this book a lot on my channel because it is one of my favorite contemporaries by far. This is perfect to read in the spring because it's just so full of love. It is definitely a contemporary book that has a lot of depth, which is amazing. Tasha and Daniel who meet, and Natasha is actually being deported with her family later in the next day. So this book takes place within the span of like a day, like within 12 hours or something like that. It is crazy, but what Nicola Yoon does with this day is just sheer beautifulness. That's not a word, but pretend it is. It is beautiful. It is a book about love, about family, about immigration, about diversity. It's just so amazing. So to read this in the spring, it's just awesome. I just can't recommend this one enough. I could say you can read this during any season, but I don't know. I think I would prefer if I would have read it during the spring because it just makes you feel anew and makes you feel fresh and happy. And I love this book. I cannot recommend this one enough. The next book is an adult book, and that is My Not So Perfect Life by Sophie Kinsella. This is an adult chick lit book, and I recommend this for the spring because it just reminds me of the spring. I read this in winter because I had to read it as soon as it came out, but perfect to read during the spring. The book takes place, a huge chunk of it in London, which is amazing, but also takes place in Somerset, which is a very country, idyllic type of like country setting, which is just beautiful to read about. And I think it was springtime or summertime or something like that. And the way Sophie Kinsella wrote it to make me want to go to Somerset and never come back. It is just beautiful. It's about a girl named Katie who is trying to live the perfect London life. It's not going so well. She has this horrible commute. She doesn't have a lot of money. She's trying to move up in her job and it's not going so well, and then she gets fired, and so she has to move back to home to her farm on Somerset where she helps her dad opens this business. And it's just an amazing book of self-discovery, of learning what you want in life and how to get it. And also has a great swoon-worthy romance in it, but that takes the latter part of the story. I'd say this focuses on the character growth, which I recommend completely. I perfect to read in the spring. I mean, look, the girl's laying in the grass. At least I'm pretty sure it's grass, but it looks springish to me, and it is amazing. Okay, this next one is gonna be kind of a cheat, I guess. I'm recommending this right now in this video because the show is currently taking place right now, which is, it started in the winter, it's gonna end in the spring. So it's the perfect time to read it, really, because the show is on. And that is Big Little Lies by Liam Moriarty. This is, I don't know if I would recommend this one to read in the spring because it's not a light, fluffy book for sure. It does have great humor in it, but it's got a lot of depth and a lot of darkness to it. This is an adult novel, and it follows 3 mothers of kindergarten kindergartners, and they each have very, very rocky secrets going on. There's a lot of different dynamics. This book deals with abuse. It deals with being a mother. It deals with ex-husbands and ex-wives. It deals with a lot of shame and just a whole slew of things. And it is very, very funny. It's got that snarky humor in it, but it also has a lot of darkness in it. So I'm recommending you read this book before you see the show. So a lot of people have asked me if they should read the book before they watch the show, and I do recommend it. I will say it does have a very slow start to it. A lot of Leigh Marty books do, honestly. It takes you about 100 pages to get in, which is a feat. I know, that's quite a lot. But once you're in a Leigh Marty book and you get past that 100 pages, you kind of can't put it down. And that was the case for this one. And just read it for the ending. Let me just say that. I'm not going to spoil you on the show if they're going to do it right, if they're not going to do it right with the ending, but Leigh Moriarty, she writes a plot twist ending and she does it good. So this book, read it alone for the ending because it is amazing. And I recommend the book a lot. I do like this one a lot. So I recommend it right now because the show is on. And if you're watching this show, let me know what you think about it. I'm kind of so-so about it, honestly. I'm still not sure how I feel about it, but seriously, read this book before you watch the show. I highly recommend it. The next book, I would say, read this during Valentine's Day, but Valentine's Day is already come and gone, so we're in spring now. And that is P.S. I Like You by Casey West. Casey West is one of the queens of contemporary fiction, in my opinion. She just writes those cute, fluffy stories that I cannot get enough of. So they're like book crack. Honestly, like there's a Casey West book, I'm like, yep, gotta read it. This is my favorite Casey West book still by far. I have 4 of her contemporary books. I'm starting to read On the Fence right now as we speak, so I don't know if that's gonna be my favorite, but right now, this is my favorite Casey West book. This is kind of like a You've Got Mail, very, very loose interpretation about these 2 people that start writing letters back and forth during class, and it's just really, really adorable. It doesn't have much depth to it, which isn't a bad thing at all. I just say, if you're looking for something light and fluffy and easy to fly through, I highly recommend any Casey West book, and if you want one in particular, I highly recommend P.S. I Like You because it is just so adorable. That is the word for this book, is adorable. Moving on to my favorite contemporary author ever. If you're not new to this channel, you already know it is Sarah Dessen. So I'm going to recommend you 2 Sarah Dessen books for this spring season, and a lot of Sarah Dessen books take place in the summer. I'd say if you're interested in reading Sarah Dessen, I have a whole video talking about every single one of her books, which I recommend which one to read first and stuff like that. I'll link it right here. But if you are interested in Sarah Dessen, I highly recommend reading her books in the spring and summer. Her books are meant to be read in spring and summer. Books I'm recommending for you to read in the spring season of Sarah Dessen's. The first one is Just Listen. This is all about this girl who one night this event happens at a party and you don't really know what happens, but she loses everything. She loses her friend, she loses her best friend, no one really talks to her anymore, so she becomes a loner and sits kind of alone, and then she meets a boy named Owen who's also a loner. He's really into music and they start bonding over that, and Owen really helps her to kind of like tell people how she feels, let her tell her truth, and let them just listen to things and let them listen to her side of the story. Hence the title, Just Listen. So I highly recommend this one. This is one of my favorite Sarah Dessen novels, and I'd recommend if you're interested in trying her out, this is a good one to start with because it is amazing and a perfect spring read. Another Sarah Dessen book I recommend to you is Saint Anything. About Sydney, who has kind of a rocky family life. Her brother has done something really horrible and now he's in jail, only her parents are really not seeing that her brother has done something so horrible. They're still kind of just thinking he's a perfect child. He didn't do anything wrong. He shouldn't be punished. But Sydney's feeling a lot of shame and a lot of guilt and a lot of weight on her shoulders from her brother's horrible decision and the thing he's done, and she's really dealing with that. So she starts going to a new school, and then she meets a whole new cast of friends, and she meets a friend named Lila who her family owns a pizza shop, which is amazing, and they start bonding, and she really starts seeing her friend Lila's family and how beautiful and how they listen to each other, how they respect each other, and how they love one another. And she's really starting to feel like her family's really not like that at all. So it's all about that. This one probably has my favorite side character, Sarah Dessen's, which is a very strong point in her books. I love her side characters. She writes some amazing side characters. So this one is perfect to read. If you're interested in Sarah Dessen for spring reads, there are going to be a whole bunch more of my summer ones. Rest assured you on that. Say read Just Listen and Saint Anything. Moving on, the next book I want to talk about is Tell Me 3 Things by Julie Buxom. I read this a couple months ago. This is almost another like You've Got Mail. I guess anything could really be a You've Got Mail if they just start talking to each other. They don't know who they are. I don't know. A girl named Jessie who is still grieving over the death of her mother, and her dad gets remarried, so they move, and just with that she has to go to a whole new school where she doesn't know anybody, and some random person has started emailing her trying to help her navigate the school's life, and they start talking on that, and they start have feelings for each other, but then she meets another boy in school and she may start have feelings for him as well. So it's all about that. This wasn't my favorite contemporary read, but it is a cute one that you can fly through, that is for sure. I do like Julie Buxton's writing style a lot, and like I said, it was really cute, and I love the whole aspect of the secret emailing thing. They didn't know who each other was. I did really enjoy that because I do like a lot of stories like that, but again, not my favorite one, but still really adorable, and I think it's perfect to read during the springtime. Next up is one I'm cheating on because I haven't read this book. I'm starting it very, very soon, like probably tonight as we speak. But I still wanted to put it on here because I feel like it's just a perfect spring read. That is The City Baker's Guide to Country Living by Louise Miller. Look at the cover, it's freaking gorgeous. This is all about this woman named Olivia, a pastry chef for this really exclusive diner club, and then she accidentally sets the whole place on fire, so she's obviously out of a job. So she moves to this town in Vermont and gets this job as a pastry assistant, as a pastry chef at the Sugar Maple Inn, which is the most adorable name for an inn ever. So she moves there, and she just gets to falling in love with her job, the town that she's living in now, and it just screams spring to me, like baking, going to a beautiful place in Vermont. I bet Vermont is beautiful in the spring. Oh my gosh. I don't know. I'm like obsessed with Vermont and Connecticut and Maine. I think I would move to any one of those and like stay for like spring, summer, and fall. I'd probably not want to be there in the winter though. Or the winters are probably harsh there, but this just screams spring to me. I mean, the cover like on the jacket, that's yellow, and on the back it's got kind of like this tealish color. I mean, spring. Hopefully I'm not kicking myself in the butt for putting this on here because I haven't read it, because it could be a horrible book, but I'm really hoping it's not because it sounds so freaking adorable and it sounds perfect for spring. And the last two books on here are my oldie but goodies ones that I just always recommend because I love them so dearly. The first one of that's going to be Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. Oh, I love Fangirl. I think Fangirl is perfect to read for any season, but spring is just it just makes you feel light and fluffy, and I don't know, something about the spring in Fangirl makes me so happy. Kath, who is going to college and she's, you know, starting a whole new thing. She's very much an introvert. She writes fan fiction for her favorite fandom, which is amazing, and then she meets a boy, and she's really just struggling with going to college and getting out of her shell and learning how to be herself because she's a twin sister who she's always been with all the time, and her twin sister wants to be by herself to explore things and, like, you know, actually, you know, explore college life, and Cass really struggling. It is just the quintessential adorable book. Fangirl is one of my favorite books of all time, and I think it's just the perfect spring read. I would say Fangirl would be perfect to read in the spring and fall. One of those two, if not both. Reread them both seasons, honestly, and you'll be good. But I just, Fangirl, just whenever I think of Fangirl, it automatically puts a smile on my face. And the last oldie but goodie is To All the Boys I've Loved Before by Jenny Han. This is the first book in a trilogy. The last book's actually coming out this spring, so there you go. Perfect segue into spring. If you haven't read this trilogy, the last book's going to come out in May, so it's the perfect time to read it. It's during spring. Read it. Autogramming Laura Jean, who always writes a letter to her crushes. She even addresses like the letter and everything and sticks it under a box under her bed for like, and she's like done with it. She's like, I wrote you, my feelings are done. And then one day she comes home to all the letters have been mailed out, which she did not do. So she had to deal with the repercussions of that. And it's just so adorable. The adorable in this book is just, it's adorable. Have I said that enough? Probably. Yes, I have. But I still love this trilogy, and I feel like it's the perfect time to read it for the spring, especially with the last book coming up. I'd say, you know, start now. Read the first book in March, read the second book in April, and then read the last and third book in May. So perfect timing. If you haven't read this trilogy, it is the perfect time to pick it up. So those are all my spring reads recommendations for you. I hope that you actually got some recommendations out of this video, that it helped you figure out what to read this spring. If you're looking for a contemporary, I hope I helped you out. If you have read any of these, please let me know down in the comments. And let's talk about your favorite spring reads. What books do you like reading this spring? For me, like I said, contemporary is my jam in the spring and summer. Like, can't get enough contemporary. If I could read only contemporary in the spring and summer, I'd be okay with that. But I love reading fantasy and sci-fi and other genres like that as well. So it's always a struggle. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and hit subscribe, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.